Hey everyone, so I'm here today with my lemon tree to talk a bit about how I plan to overwinter my lemon tree so that it survives and I can bring it back out into my garden next year. Now, I don't consider myself an expert on quite a lot of things, and overwintering lemon trees is one of them, and that's because I've only done it twice, and the first year I killed my lemon tree, so I've only had one successful overwintering, but I did a lot different between last year and then this past year. So I thought I'd share what I did that I think was helpful in terms of overwintering my tree. So the first thing is that I live in Chicago, we are zone 6A, and this lemon tree cannot survive outside, especially in a container where it's going to be even more impacted by the cold weather that we get here. So I like to move mine inside right about when the evening temperatures dip down into the 40s consistently. So I do try to leave it outside for as long as possible because the lemon tree prefers it much more outside than it does inside. It's almost kind of a struggle to keep it alive inside, but I'll go more into that in just a second. But when the temperatures dip down into the 40s at night, that's when I know it's about time to move this in. And right now we are 60s, sometimes high 60s during the day, dipping down to the 50s at night, so that's still okay for the plant. That's typically about when I move it outside in the spring, but probably in the next couple weeks, this is going to be moved inside permanently for the winter. So that's the first step, is kind of figuring out when in your growing zone it's time to move it indoors. So once you have an idea of around the time that you're going to need to move your lemon tree inside, you want to start acclimating it to the reduction of sunlight it's going to be getting. So most likely your plant is receiving more sun outside currently than it's going to receive inside, especially during winter when the days are shorter and shorter. So if your lemon tree is in a full sun location, just slowly start giving it some more shade each day. That way when you move it inside, it's not a huge shock going from a bunch of sun to barely any sun. Now with mine, I actually put mine under a grow light once it goes inside. So it still has, in fact, it might even have more hours of sun per day than it's getting now, but it is artificial light. So I still do shift it a little bit more to the shade just because, and I don't know if this is true or not, but to me, it seems that the light from the sun is probably a little bit different than the light that it's getting from the grow light inside. So I don't want it to have that shock of going from full sun to all of a sudden under a grow light. And that's what I did last year, and it seemed to work just fine. If you don't have a grow light, then you want to try to put it in front of a window that has as much light as possible. So ideally, in the northern hemisphere, that would be a south-facing window. We do not have south-facing windows, or if we do, they're very, very tiny and face the building next door. But at our last place we were renting, we had beautiful, giant, south-facing glass doors, and all my plants did really well over the winter. I didn't need any sort of grow light. But now that we only have either west or east, that's going to be the second best, just because that gets the second most amount of sun. But south-facing would ideally be the best choice for your lemon tree. Now, another thing you want to do before you move it inside for the winter is thoroughly check for any pests. Now, mine is relatively small, so I'm looking under the leaves right now. I don't see anything, but I will give it a blast with the hose water. And then what I also like to do, just for any plants I move inside, is to kind of scrape away the top layer of soil, just in case anything's in there or something has laid eggs, and keep that soil outside. And then once it's inside, I keep it away from other plants, at least like probably 4 to 5 feet. Maybe I should do 6 feet, since that's the social distancing we're used to. So I keep it away from other plants. I want not to have anything right up next to it in case I do find an infestation occurring soon after I move it in, but probably about, I don't know, 3-ish weeks, I start to trust it and will move other plants a bit closer to where this one is. If you do see any issues arise, then I will just treat it either with neem oil or insecticidal soap that I have, and that usually does pretty well. Now, on the topic of infestations, that is one of the main struggles I find with keeping my lemon tree alive inside over winter, is that it just seems very prone to some sort of infestation. Typically what I've seen is spider mites. I know they can also get scale. I had a different plant get scale last winter. And then also you can get aphids on these. So you want to make sure you are keeping a close eye on your lemon tree. I keep a very close eye on it all winter. Now, something I started doing last year, and I don't remember where I read this if I read it or if it was just something that came to me. But something I started doing is every day that I can remember, or almost every morning, I will pick up this lemon tree, bring it into the shower, and blast with water, because a lot of the time I don't notice the spider mites until there's a lot of them. So if there's anything that I can kind of blast off the leaves just on a regular basis, I find that that does help in limiting the amount of outbreaks of pests that I can find on my plant. But again, I don't know where I heard that from. It's just something I did last year, and it seemed to work pretty well. There is going to be an issue with that once this tree gets too big for me to easily carry over to the shower, but I'll worry about that problem when it gets there. Another thing that citrus trees, especially lemon trees, like is humidity, which when you're blasting heat in the winter doesn't make for a very humid environment. So I did hook up a humidifier that kind of sat on the floor. So this sits on the table. I'll show you inside where it's going to go. I basically set up a humidifier on the floor next to it, and just switched out the water every day, just like I do with the humidifier in my bedroom. So this plant really does get pampered. Even though they enjoy humidity, you want to be careful not to overwater your lemon tree when it's indoors. So I would say outside, during the peak of the summer, it probably got watered every 3 days. Once it's inside, it probably will get watered once a week or every 2 weeks. But I always check just by sticking my finger in, and if it's dry up to my knuckle, I'll go ahead and give it some water. If not, I will go ahead and wait on it. I also do a lot of fertilizing during the growing season, but that's another thing that I will stop during the winter as well. So no fertilizing and limited water compared to when I'm taking care of it outside. Something else I do for my lemon tree when it's inside, and not just the lemon tree, but for anything kind of around it, is I will put up an oscillating fan that kind of tilts back and forth just to provide a little bit of movement and making sure the air isn't staying too stagnant. Now, that seems like a lot to keep a plant alive over the winter, and I regularly think to myself, is it worth having a lemon tree in my garden that I have to put so much effort into over the winter, where I've had a 50% success rate of not killing it during the winter time? So let me show you the tree a little bit. So right here, I have one lemon here, which is the largest lemon I've ever had on a lemon tree. That's my hand next to it. And then there's another lemon right there, which is obviously much smaller. So I usually get 2 lemons a year from my lemon tree. So productivity wise, is it worth it? I would say no, because I eat a lot more lemons and I can just go to the grocery store and get the lemons I need. They do taste better though, just like almost everything in the garden compared to the grocery store. So productivity wise, would I say it's worth all the effort? No. But does it bring me enough joy that it ends up being worth the effort in the end? Yes, because I think it's kind of cool to have a lemon tree or any sort of citrus tree growing in Chicago. So that'll be something that'll kind of, if you are trying this out, you'll kind of figure out for yourself, is it worth it, is it not? Maybe you have a better indoor growing environment and don't need to pamper it as much as I do, and that could also impact your decision. So that is everything I wanted to cover as far as how I keep it alive over the winter. Now let me take you inside and I'll show you the grow light setup and where it's going to be moved in a few weeks. This is the table where I will put the lemon tree right here underneath the grow light. And this grow light is from Soltech. I've had it since 2019, I believe, and it's done a really good job of keeping my plants happy that like a little bit of extra sun. And I did put the lemon tree in the same exact spot last year, and it seemed to like it. The only thing this hasn't really worked for that I tried was seed starting, but as far as plants go, those seem to really enjoy it under the light. There's a timer here where you can choose what hours of the day you want the light shining and what hours of the day you want it to turn off, and then it does that all automatically. I basically have this running almost every day of the year. I don't know how long the light bulbs last, but I have yet to have to change it. So basically when I move the lemon tree in, I'm gonna put this one on the floor as well, and then I like to just leave the lemon tree here by itself, just in case there are any pest issues. I don't wanna have something right next to it. This table isn't very large to begin with, so I kind of wanna give all that space to the lemon tree. Now there is a vent up there, and then that I just keep closed when we turn on the heat. so that the hot air isn't hitting directly onto the plant. So that's going to be everything for this video. I hope that's helpful if you are planning to move your lemon tree inside for the winter. If you do anything else that I didn't mention, or if some of the things that I've tried you really do like, really don't like, let me know in the comments below, because I'm always willing to try more things to keep my plants alive. But thank you so much for watching. When it actually is time to move the plant in, I will show you that as well. But for now, I will see you in the next video. Bye.